How's it going, YouTube? Sushi bringing you guys another Digimon card game finals match. Today it is going to be me on the left playing blue hybrids. My opponent is playing red hybrids on the right. This is the Steel Fox Locals finals game, as I mentioned before. We are playing with the mulligan rules instated and the sideboard, but I really don't think that comes up. I don't believe either of us side. I don't even know if my opponent had a side together. And then both of our hands seemed pretty solid most of the game, so we decided not to mulligan any of them. So my opponent does win the dice roll, so he gets to go first, Digivolving into the Flamemon on the Demi-Meramon, and then playing the Neymon to start the game off. Here I did have to inform my opponent. He did try to play the tie, but Neymon does specify that the tamer you play does have to have an inheritable. It's supposed to be paired with like the frontier tamers, like Takuya and stuff. So he does have to take that play back, but I don't have a rookie. I thought I'd maybe draw into one, but I do decide to just pass over to one, play the Sorjo. He raises and passes back over with the tie. With the Neymon on the field, I do get to go up to 5 memory. Here I play the Tommy to strip the sources just to have it on the field. You see I have the Hammer Sparks and a Koji in hand. This game's kind of full of a few weird plays on my end. I think I just wasn't prepared with use of the format, but I just decided to Digivolve into the Kumamon to get a little bit of cycle and then play the Koji. Probably should have just played the Koji. I do have the Korikakumon in hand, and I'm probably not going to worry about him swinging in super early, even though red hybrids are kind of a thing you have to worry about. Thinking about constantly if the Agunimon's going to come out, which, come to find out, my opponent does not have in the list the promo Agunimon that lets you cheat into Ancient. But anyway, my opponent does play the red memory boost that came out in this format that gives the security attack +1 just to kind of get it on the field and maybe get an extra check off, but the Flamemon does die, and then my opponent just decides to pass turn. Now, since he does pass the turn and I do have Sorjo on the field and he does have Neymon on the side of the field, I do gain a bunch of memory, so I am up at 5, and I swing in with the Kumamon, living the security check, and the Tommy freezes the Neymon. So here I Digivolve into the Kumamon on top of the Koji, and then finally do get the rookie, Digivolve on the rookie, and here I decide to cycle into the Korikakumon. I'm not 100% sure why I did this. I think it was just for the cycle, but I probably could have just avoided it, kept the Korikakumon for follow-up plays, and then just played the Davis like I did to grab some more Digimon, or to grab the search off, and here, and then this passes the turn over to 3. My opponent does Digivolve into the Agunimon on his turn, popping the memory boost, going up to 2, and then Digivolving into the BT4 Aldemon. So this is his kind of backup since he doesn't have full Ancient Greymons and the promo Agunimons. So he does have the piercing though, so he does have 2 checks, and here he swings in, piercing through the Kumamon, hitting a Davis and then hitting a 7k. But this Agunimon, or this Aldemon, is quite huge. I believe he's 11k on his turn with his effect, as long as he has a hybrid in the sources. So my opponent passes back the turn to me with the Takuya play, setting up a tamer for following turns, and I promote up the Strabimon. Here's where I could have probably had game on board and stopped my opponent from winning. I could have easily checked more security. I just decided to play it extra cautious. So I Digivolve into the Kumamon to strip the sources underneath the Aldemon, and then swing in with the Korikakumon, activating Sorjo, stripping the last 2 sources underneath the Aldemon. And I do die to the security check, but here I Digivolve the Kumamon for 1, freezing the Aldemon into Korikakumon. The more I think about it, I probably should have held onto that. Like, I know I have to freeze the Aldemon for sure, but I could have easily just Digivolved. I could have just held off on doing this play that I'm about to do, which is Digivolving into, or playing the Strabimon, and then searching 3. Here I do get a rookie and a tamer. I decided to grab the Tommy because I would like to keep the freeze going, but here, instead of playing the Tommy, I decided to be a little extra cautious, Digivolve into the Korikakumon, and then freezing the Neymon since there was a hybrid in the sources, passing my opponent over to his 3. If I would have held on to some of these, I think I might have had it, because he would have had to have, he would have had to swing with the Neymon, had some way to gain some memory, and then swing in with 2 hybrids, which I don't believe he had. And here my opponent counts his cards in trash, just as this lets me know that he probably does have the Emperor Greymon in hand, so I have to worry about that going forward. But here he's trying to decide what he wants to do. It looks like he's whiffing on the rookie, so I guess he's trying to find out how to pass me to as little memory as possible, but I'm going to go to 5 anyway. And he decides to evolve the Aldemon into the Burning Greymon, or Ancient Greymon. Passing me over to 2, I'll go up to 3, and then I'll go up to 5. So here's the turn where I easily could have won, but you'll see me do what I think is a horrible set of misplays. I'm not sure what was going on in my head at this point, but I have the Korikakumon. I Digivolved that into 3 into the Beowulfmon. If I would have just Digivolve, like held onto one of the Korikakumons, I could have Digivolved one of my Tamers into that and then gone into the Beowulfmon for the same effective memory, and had another body on board, and then I used the Beowulfmon effect to get the Korikakumon back, and I do get the draw for the Upamon, and then so here I've done a check. I have 2 memory left. Now I know he probably has the Emperor Greymon in hand, and if he has some other way to do more checks, then I have to worry about that, but I don't have the Ice Wall. And here I Digivolve again into another Korikakumon, freezing the Ancient Greymon. Swinging in, I do hit the Aldamon. Again, if I think if I would have just held on to that Korikakumon or maybe one of the other Digimon, it doesn't look like I have enough Tamers or enough level 4 hybrids to really win this game. But at this point, this is where I'm kind of thinking, like, how do I pass him to as little memory as possible, and what is my best play? And I just decided to go ahead and play the Strabimon, searching for another hybrid. I do end up grabbing the Koji and the Magna, but I think at this point, I'm kind of safe. I know Takuya gives extra security attack, and if he runs like BT4 Burning Greymon, then I could possibly die, or lose the game, I should say, not die. But here, I kind of have to play to my ultimate. Maybe if there's something like a Hammer Spark in security, then I could survive that way. But at the same time, there's a kind of a risk you have to take. And here he does Digivolve into the Burning Greymon, which doesn't delete my Strabimon because it doesn't have a Takuya, but he does have the red option. Here's where he tries to delete the Strabi, but he doesn't have the Takuya in the sources. But he does have the red option to swing in, checking the 2 checks with the Atomic Inferno active, and he does in fact have the Ancient Grey or Emperor Greymon, losing me that game. I think there's definitely multiple ways I could have won that game, but I just completely misread my hand and everything. It was kind of a little rough time, so I really am not sure what was going on in my head that game. But anyways, on to game 2. I decided I'm going to go ahead and go first. I think this is maybe a go first format because you really do like to be able to set up your Tamers, even if you have to pass a bunch of memory. So I Digivolve into the Strabi. I do have a rookie this time and play a Davis, get my memory Tamer set up, and then grab a Lobomon or a hybrid off of that. And pass the turn over. My opponent Digivolves Egg into Flamemon and then sets up his 2 Tamers, sets up a Tai, sets up a Takuya. But here I swing in with the Strabimon. Live the check, surprisingly. He does hit the Flame Memory Boost, which is really not what I wanted, but I do go ahead and pass him over. I set up a Tommy and a Sora Joe for the following turn, so if he does end up having a Digimon like a Bokomon or something on the field, I will gain the memory, which is in fact what he does. He plays the Bokomon down, revealing 5. Misses on the Tamer, unfortunately, but he does see a target in the Flamemons or the Emperor or the Ancient Greymon. So here he decides to take the rookie, letting me know that he probably does have the Ancient Greymon already in hand, and he needed the rookie for follow-up plays, or maybe to dig a little bit more if he's missing more Tamers or something, maybe more hybrids that he needs. But here he has the Bokomon, so he does decide to just Digivolve into the Burning Greymon. With the Bokomon, he is free, and then since it is a Takuya in the sources, he does get to pop the Strabimon. And here he did play, that did come out of security, so he can go ahead and Digivolve or pop it, gain the 2 memory, and Digivolve into an Aldamon, swinging in for 3 checks, I believe. Yeah, because he has the Takuya in his built-in one. And he does end up hitting the Hammer Spark. Since he does have the Bokomon without sources, I get to gain the 2 memory off of Sworjo after I set myself to 3. And here I have the Syakomon kind of set up for if he has the other Aldamon. But I Digivolved my Tommy into Kumamon, trying to decide what I want to strip the sources of. It might seem a little weird right here where I wanted to strip the source off of the Flamemon because I could trash the 2 sources off of the Aldamon, but what I decided to do is strip the source off of the Aldamon anyway. I think at this point it doesn't really matter, and then I Digivolve into the Beowulfmon, swinging the Beowulfmon, or for one, swinging the Beowulfmon at security, suspending Sora Joe to strip the sources, using Tommy's effect to freeze the Aldamon, and then adding the Kumamon back to my hand to bounce back this Flamemon. So like I said, it's kind of suboptimal because it didn't really matter what I stripped the sources with Kumamon. Kumamon could have been a Lobomon and it would have been the same effect. And then check goes through and it is a Flamemon, so I do end up living the security check. Here I know my opponent's going to go to 3, so I'm trying to find out what the best thing to do is. You see I have that Ice Wall in hand, and the rookie sitting in the top of my hand, so I'm trying to decide if that's what I want to do. I do decide to go ahead and play the Ice Wall. really just to effectively use my memory and to keep my opponent from doing the attacks. I have plenty of stuff in my hand, so I'm pretty sure that I have the hybrid, I have a body on board, I have a baby and raising, and I have the Beowulf Mon. He only has 3 security left, so I effectively have 5 swings on board as long as the Bokomon stays on board. So I just try to use the Ice Wall as a little deterrent. Not the best play of it, but I feel like it kind of deterred some attacks, even though the Aldemon can't really attack. Deters the Bokomon check, or maybe the Tai Digivolving, getting an extra check off with like the same play he did before, and then swinging with the Bokomon. So here he plays another Bokomon, revealing 3. He does get the hybrid. At this point, I mean, still because of the Hammer Spark or the Ice Wall, he can't win, but he does end up grabbing the Agunimon, I believe, and he's trying to decide what he wants to do. He plays 3, just says go ahead, go wide with the Flamemon. This pretty much assures him game as long as I can't win the following turn, and he grabs his only target, which is the Emperor Greymon. And here, I draw for turn, I swing in with the Beowulfmon, I freeze the Aldemon just with the effect because it's a mandatory effect, and then I believe it's a mandatory effect. Survives the check to a Flamemon or an Agunimon, swing in with the Siakomon. It is the Ancient Evolution. I just make sure it's add to hand. I hadn't really seen the inherited effect of that card. Live the check, swing in with the Strabi, and then swing in with the Kumamon that I already had at hand that he knew about. So that will secure game 2 for me, on to game 3. So on to game 3, my opponent does and decides to go first. Doesn't mulligan. I don't think either of us mulligan at all during this match. And then he digivolves into the Flamemon, sets up Stakuya. Pretty standard first turn play. I hatched the Kiaramon, digivolve into Strabimon, BT6 I believe, and then set up a Sorajo, hoping that he plays something like a Bokomon, trying to set plays up, maybe go wide a little bit. But from the looks of my opponent's hand, he didn't actually have it, but he did have the Agunimon, so he digivolves for 1 or to 2, passing me over to 1, so I don't get the memory off of Sorajo. Here, I get a little bit of extra cycle, digivolve into the Kumamon to strip the source, which triggers Kiaramon, which does give me another draw, and then now I can gain the memory if the Kumamon does live with the Strabimon inheritable, and this does just pass my opponent over to 1 memory. Unfortunately, though, for me, my opponent does have the Burning Greymon, and since there is an Agunimon in the sources, he digivolves for 1 and then gets the pop off with the effect to delete the Kumamon, so my board is effectively clear, but my hand's not really in the worst spot, and I do gain 2 memory off of Sorajo because Bokomon's on the field with no sources, so it sets me up at 5, and here I do have another BT6 Strabimon. I think I had like almost all of my rookies in hand. I think I have both of my Siakomons and several of my Strabimons. So here I decide to play one of them. I play the BT7 one to search for a Koji. I decided to go with the Koji and not the Beowulfmon. I don't really need it at this point in time. And here my opponent doesn't have a memory tamer, so I decide go ahead and play the Koji, set that up for following turn so I can have stuff. He can still only check twice, and I don't really have other thing to swing in with, so I feel like this is just the best way to set it up. Don't really want to digivolve the rookie and raising right now. This only passes my opponent to 1 memory as well. So he does swing in with the Burning Greymon. At 6k it does live against the Lobomon, which is another advantage of things like Burning Greymon and these other Slide Evolution Digimon, is they can set up, they are a little bit bigger. But he follows it up with a Bokomon play, has only 2 targets. His options have to go to the bottom. He does grab the Tai and the Flamemon, I believe. So it passes me over to 4 memory because of the Bokomons being on the field because of Sorajo. And here I raise and then I push up the Koji. I already know I'm going to digivolve it, so I'm not worried about giving this away. I'm just trying to decide what I want to digivolve it into. I think I have a Korikakumon, but I also have a Lobomon in hand, and then I also do have the Kumamon. So Kumamon digivolves and I strip the source underneath the Burning Greymon. And then I can't remember if I had this or I digivolved or I drew it, but now I have the Beowulfmon. So I can digivolve the Beowulfmon for free, but what I decided to do is instead be a little safe, digivolve the Korikakumon, freezing the one of the Bokomon, then digivolving into Beowulfmon, swinging over the Burning Greymon, and then using the effect to add the Kumamon the Korikakumon back to hand to bounce the Bokomon. So even though he gets a little bit more search off the Bokomon, it's nice to have the field effectively clear. So here I swing in with the Strabimon, get the draw for the Upa, and I do hit the red option card that lets you play a Takuya out of security. And then, so I do live, and then I swing in with the other Strabimon, and it does in fact die to a Burning Greymon in security. And I just follow in the turn by playing a Tommy. My opponent raises up the Flamemon, and looking at his hand, he has a couple of Tamers, and or he has a Tai and maybe another Flamemon. Just decides to go a little bit aggressive, swinging in with the Flamemon. Does hit a Tommy, unfortunately, so now I'm set up. He knows I have the Korikakumon in hand as well from the Beowulfmon effect, and if the Beowulfmon sticks around, I can add the Beowulfmon back to my hand. I do miss the Koji effect. I forgot to mention that. I missed the Koji effect last turn as well, so I should have gained a memory. But I don't think in the grand scheme of things it really matters a whole lot right here. But he does end up playing the Tai, passing me over to as little memory as possible. But since he has Digimon without sources, I do get to go to 3 because of Sorjo. Hatch an egg, Digivolve into the Strabimon. He only has 3 security left, and I do have a decent amount of checks possible. I think I effectively have enough checks here. If I don't have a Hammer Spark, I could still just win it, but I can't remember if I do. But I also have the Koji, so here I am trying to decide what I want to do. I could clear out the Flamemon, swing in. It's like, what, I have 3 checks left, so it's probably a best bet to get rid of the Bokomon just in case he can Digivolve up into something. But I swing, I decide to bounce the Flamemon just in case. I probably should have bounced the Bokomon, but I do remember to add the memory off of Koji this time. I do live the security check, which you see me there. I think about going into Magna Garurumon, but I don't think I can win if I play Magna Garurumon because I don't have a Bokomon of myself own on the field. So I just decided to swing with the Strabimon, draw. It does die, but since I gained the memory off of the Koji, I do just have 4 memory. So I can Digivolve into the Korikakumon, freeze the Bokomon, which really doesn't matter. It survives, but again, I do have another Korikakumon in my hand, swinging in, making sure that the Tommy was in fact played this during the last turn, and then swinging for game. So that is going to be the match. I had to really find out what I was doing at some of the points in the game. Like, I'm always scared of the red matchup. Like, I played a little bit more cautious than I should have. Blue is still pretty aggressive, even with the freeze effects. If I would have played a little bit more aggressive, I probably would have been able to clutch game 1 out. But even still, I was able to keep it, use my freezes more effectively in game 2 and 3 to keep up tempo and to not give my opponent too much room. After I realized that he didn't run the BT4, well, I guess it's not BT4, but the promo Agunimon that lets you cheat into the Ancient Greymon, at least I hadn't seen it at all. I felt a little bit more confident being a little bit more aggressive and not freezing some of the stuff, because if he had that, there's a good chance I could have just been wiped out turn 1 or 2 by an Ancient Greymon effect. But unfortunately, he did not have those, so going forward, he said he was going to try to grab those because that really does help, but I feel like they might be getting a little expensive at this point for more budget players, especially with Ancient Greymon spiking up in price as well with how popular Red is expected to be in this format. Other than that, guys, thank you very much for watching the video. If you are interested in more Digimon gameplay videos and deck profiles, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like on the video, comment down below if you want to see any specific matchups or something going forward. I'll try to get those on the channel. But other than that, guys, until next time, have a great one. See you.